time joining me here, I want to extend a warm welcome to you. Thank you so much. And if it is not your first time, thank you so much for coming back and joining me. If you do find this channel interesting, if you think that I do have something valuable to share that is beneficial to you, I welcome you to hit the subscribe button as well as turn on your notifications so that you do not miss out on any new videos. And if that's how you feel also, then share the channel with somebody that you love and care about. So today, on today's show, I want to talk to you about what happens to the narcissist. What happens with the narcissist when they find out that you have figured them out? And I have 3 points that I want to highlight during this video. The first one is fury. You incite fury in the narcissist. The second point is showtime. Is showtime. And the third one, is the discard. So let's get right into it. So what happens to the narcissist once they realize that you have figured them out? Like I said, you incite fury in the narcissist. What happens is they begin to experience anger and rage. And if you know anything about narcissists, you know that when they are feeling this way, they don't contain those feelings to themselves. They share it. What do I mean when I say they share it? They begin to project those feelings onto those people who are around them, whether it's family, friends, co-workers, employees, even random strangers, as well as, their other love interests, whether it's old supply or even their new supply. They begin to project their anger and fury at them. So while you may not directly be in their path, can you imagine what the other people are going through, those who are directly in the path? Or sometimes you're still with them. So you're still in the home, you're still in the relationship. You've just figured them out. You just haven't had a chance to leave, or they haven't discarded you as of yet. So you may be experiencing that fury. Now, what you have to understand with the narcissist is they cannot regulate their emotions. And so that's kind of why they project those emotions onto other people. They derive a sense of narcissistic supply. Excuse me. They derive some narcissistic supply knowing that they are making somebody feel how they're feeling, and it just makes them feel better about themselves. So they can't regulate their emotions, and they can't articulate their emotions. They lack the capacity to do that. So they become irrational, they become hypersensitive, they become hypercritical, always criticizing, calling people names, blaming, and doing all of that. As well as like I said, they project their emotions. And it's during this phase that they become incredibly terrifying. They may act calm on the outside and they may pretend to be calm, but there's a storm brewing on the inside of them. They're going around with a lot of anger. And the thing about it is, they've lost control over you because you figured them out. So you know what their number is, and they begin to realize at this point, it's like they're thrown into a state of panic, and they're just grasping at whatever they can at this point. And another thing is that with a narcissist, they see you either as all good or all bad, or you're a threat or a non-threat. But once you have figured them out and they're aware of it, you become all bad. You are also a threat. And this is where, and this is simply because they lack object constancy. That's all. They don't see any in between. It's one extreme or the other. And so, they're in a state of panic. And really the panic is incited because you have issued a narcissistic injury. And so, you're a target now, and they're going to do whatever they can to get back at you, because that's what the narcissist does. There's never an instance where, they just will let it go without any thought, without confronting you, or just without any type of retaliation. And so this is a very dangerous phase to be with the narcissist, to be in the home with the narcissist. And so you've got to be very careful, especially if you're dealing with somebody with psychotic or sociopathic tendencies, or even if it's just the malignant narcissist. You've got to be very careful and make sure that you are doing everything that you can to protect yourself and any children that are in your home. And sometimes this is where people, and I did this too. I left the city. In fact, I didn't leave the city. I left the state. Well, I've done both. I've left the city and I've left the state. Like, I relocated right round across the country to just, maintain my own stability and protect myself emotionally as well as my children. So their behavior will kind of let you know where they are. So this is what happens. That's the first step. This is what happens when you figured them out. You incite fury in them, and that just translates to anger and rage that they are going to project. The next thing that I want to talk about is it's showtime. This is where their games come in. Narcissists love to play games. They do the most. So if you're in the home with this person, this is where you'll begin to find evidence that they're love bombing somebody else. They'll leave little clues, hints. They're going to be sloppy and careless just so that you can become aware of what's going on. You'll find evidence of them flirting with somebody, and that could be through social media. They may be. Here's something interesting. They may start to approach your friends, your coworkers, your family members. They may begin to hit them up as just a way to get back at you. They're going to use them to triangulate you, right? So, real quick, when my last relationship ended, and he was a narcissist, a malignant one at that, he began to reach out to my friends on social media. Mind you, these are my friends. Their loyalty lies with me, not with him. They didn't know him from a can of paint, and they're loyal. They're great friends. But he began to hit them up. He began to talk to them, or he began to. In fact, it was on Instagram, and he went and started like friend requesting them, or hitting them up with a follow and that kind of thing. And they were like, they hit me up like, "Girl, isn't this so and so?" Let's say Keith, for whatever reason. "Isn't this Keith?" And I'm like, "No, yeah, it is." And they were like, "Well, he's trying to talk to me. He had a message request, that your DMs will let you know." And my girls just went ahead and deleted it. It wasn't even a thing. But for some people, you may not have friends who are loyal. You may not have family members who are loyal, and they'll buy into it. This is where the narcissist will begin to another way he will triangulate you in such situations is tell them, "Oh, did you know that Joy said such and such about you? Did you know that she was dogging you and I said this?" And they may mention something that they may have even overheard you talk about on a phone, or they may have intercepted a message. So they may have some background information, or even if you had you've had a conversation with them about your friend, they will use that against you, and they'll pull everything negative out of that so that it does not work in your favor, or so that it looks like you really were saying some negative things about you. I've experienced that too, but that was with just a friend. And what you have to understand here, this is not the time for you to try to defend yourself. It's not the time for you to try to he say, she say, get involved with that. Just let it slide. And when I mean let it slide, yes, it hurts. I'm aware of that. Like I said, I've been there myself, but don't let that become the focus. Don't let that become the focus. You know who they are now. They're exposed. And it's a good time to get information. One of the greatest things about a narcissist, any type really, is once you have them figured out, sorry, you can predict what they're going to do. They are highly predictable. They follow patterns. Now they may not be exactly to a T, but you can know what to anticipate. And once I learned that, it made my recovery so much easier for me. So just remember that. And part of being a narcissist is, or what makes them narcissists, is they have a false self. And so it's all about mirrors. They're going to mirror how they're feeling. They're going to mirror how other people are feeling, and that's how they got you in the first place. They mirrored who you are. You fell in love with a version of yourself that they mirrored onto you. So they're going to do that with their new love interest, with their new supply. And just remember, this is part of the game. This is part of the game. They will start those smear campaigns, and this is where you need some tough skin. It's difficult hearing, terrible things about yourself. It's difficult hearing the lies, especially when you realize how much you invested in this relationship emotionally, how supportive you were, and the role that you played in this relationship, and you hear them talking about you like that. Yeah, it's difficult. But it's not time for you to take their bait, because all of this is bait. They want to bait you into an argument. They want to bait you into, whether it's a phone call, an email, a text, they want your attention. And what happens here is that they will, if you take the bait, 9 out of 10, they're going to yell and scream at you. It's going to be a shouting match. You can't outshout them. You can't out talk them because they're prepared that this is their moment. It's showtime. So they're going to do the most. And once they've said what they had to say, guess what? They're going to hang up and leave you. And that then transfers their frustrations onto you. So don't take the bait. Don't allow them to throw that negative energy onto you. Let them maintain that negative energy. You don't want none of it. Remember, they are professional victims. They are professional liars. And another thing is that they're really just stuck in the early development phases of a child. So it's like getting into a screaming match or trying to defend yourself with a 2-year-old. It's insulting to a 2-year-old, but that's who they are. They are stuck at a certain point in their life. It could be 2, 5, 7, whatever, but it's those early years. So don't entangle yourself with that. Sometimes they reach out to employers, your boss, to talk mess about you. Don't engage in it. Let it die right there. Let them pull in whoever they decide to pull in, and whoever bites it, let them bite it. You've got to rise above it. Your skin needs to be so thick at this point when they are in the middle of a smear campaign. It's difficult, but it's so worth your while. And this is experience telling you it is so worth your while at the end of the day. Now, I did mention that the third phase was a discard. So if you are still in the home with them and you haven't discarded them, or they haven't, that is what's going to be next. You can no longer be a doormat. They don't have power or control over you, because what's exposed is exposed. And so they have no more power or control. You've taken that away from them. And so this is where you find that people who are in relationships, sometimes I've heard countless stories where their partner just up and leaves, ghosts them. Like, who ghosts somebody in a relationship? Just come home and everything is gone. And that's it. It happens. It's difficult because you feel like there is no closure, but that's okay. I understand the pain that follows it, but you're really going to be okay. And as crazy as this will sound, this is exactly where you want to be. You want to be in that phase of being discarded, because the narcissist has shifted their focus and attention away from you to their new supply. And it may be difficult. Not even it may be difficult. Let me tell you what. It's very difficult. Okay, this is me telling you the truth. It's very, very difficult. And whether the narcissist is violent or non-violent, they will all do this. So they may give you the silent treatment where they stonewall you and you just get a bunch of yes/no answers. They may become passive aggressive. They may be mysterious. It's a bunch of things. And if they are domestically abusive, this is where this will take place. And so you've got to have your escape kit ready. You've got to know the signs. You've got to know your person. And when you see that, the level of violence or their temperament is changing and becoming heightened, you need your escape kit ready. Have a bag with clothes for you, any children, as well as gather any paperwork, documentation, birth certificates, passports, whatever you need. Have a secret stash of money. Now, I'm not a big advocate of secret money in a healthy relationship, but in this instance, you need what you need to take off. So have your secret stash. Alert school counselors, know where your local shelters are, as well as, have people who love and support you in your corner, the kind of people who will not go back to the narcissist, and let them know where you are, what you're doing, what you're planning, what you are thinking. And, and that's if you have to discard them. But at the end of the day, the discard doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter who discarded who. It just matters that it happens. And afford yourself the opportunity to grieve the relationship. It's so difficult. It is so difficult to wrap around your mind what exactly just happened to you when you come out of this relationship. And you got to understand. And for myself, the easiest way or the quickest way that I was able to begin the process of healing and recovery was when I finally understood that everything was a lie. And that reality, I battled with it for a minute. everything was a lie. So when you told me you loved me, you were lying. So when we were like mad cool and like best of friends, that was a lie. When we were hanging out and we had those tender moments, that was a lie. Like it's so difficult to wrap your mind around it, because like the levels of deceit are just out of this world. And I mean, it's just out of this world. Like I can't even explain it. It was just out of this world, but it is what it is. That doesn't make it right, but it just is what it is. And so, once I was able to just say, you know what, everything was a lie. I mean, that's where, because prior to that, for me, I was just numb. I just didn't understand any of it because I was asking those questions. But when it finally sank into my mind, into my head, into my heart, that everything was a lie, then, I was like, okay. And then, I began the process of, understanding that it may have been a lie to him, but everything that I did, everything that I felt, everything that I gave, everything that I shared of myself, that was real. So acknowledge your part. Like, yes, it was real, even though they were lying or whatever. And you got to understand, they're pathological liars, they're pathological cheaters. That's just who they are. So grieve through the process, and grieve through the process. Just go through it. Don't try to fight it. Just go through it. And just begin to practice abundant amounts of self-love, and begin to guard yourself emotionally so that you don't fall for this trap. Don't jump into another relationship to not deal with the feelings. Deal with them so that you don't end up with that type of person again. There are several communities here on YouTube that you can become part of, and that would help you find your healing and help you gain understanding and move forward from this type of abuse. One important thing is get information so that you are aware of what to look at. And also, it teaches you how to heal. You may be somebody that needs to seek out a therapist. By all means, go ahead and do that, but find somebody who knows about narcissist abuse and that is a match for yourself. And then, like I said, get involved in communities. That always helps, as well as, read about it yourself. And one of the most important things is practice self-love. Go back in your own life and try to trace where your own traumas are, and heal from there so that you can guard yourself better. Or even if you are an empath, just have better boundaries. This is all about us having better boundaries, because there are signs along the way that something ain't right here, and we need to do something different so that we don't end up with these results. So anyway, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of Love Recovery. I'm Pink Girl Teaches, and it's been my pleasure to spend some time with you. Until next time, take care, love yourself, and love each other.